We're going to be doing a technical overview of the squat. So the first part of this call we're going to do is we're going to pull up a quick video that I actually just cut. I'm wearing the same shirt while I'm in the gym, where I went over some of the tips that James has given me over the years. He told me to cut out the first half. I went ahead and just left that first part in. And the reason for that is because I'm going to actually post it to Facebook and Instagram tomorrow. And I didn't want to have to make two videos. So we're going to watch that video. I'm going to pull it up for you guys so you can kind of see. And then from there, what I've done is I've actually gone through and pulled up videos of squats from our private Facebook group. And the coaches are going to go through, break down those videos, provide feedback in real time, explain to you guys what adjustments need to be made, explain what we're looking for, what that proper technique looks like, and hopefully give you guys some value on this call so that you can correct some of the technique issues with your squat moving forward. Okay.
All right. Good evening, gentlemen. Welcome back. We're going to go over the squat. I hope you guys take notes and you pay a lot of attention. And the reason why is the squat is the most functional movement out of everything we do between deadlifting, benching, and squatting. Think about it. It's the most functional. If you can have a pretty good, I would say 80 to 90% proficient squat technique, your day-to-day life is going to get 100% better. Y'all hear that whole like, you use your legs, don't bend with your back, all that when you're picking up boxes and stuff? What if you could just walk up to a crate, hit a good squat technique, pick that bad boy up and walk it 100 yards? Well, you're not going to be able to do that unless your squat technique's pretty good. So 3 of the most common mistakes that we see, the very first one is the falling of the chest. Your chest needs to be up, right? Big chest. No point in doing all that bench pressing if you're not going to put that massive chest up. So what I told my guys today, right? When you're coming up to the bar, literally very easy. Imagine you're pushing somebody off of you or your bench press. All these lifts go together, right? You're not going to come in and grab the bar way like this and try to rotate and do all this. You're not going to come inside your shoulders, inside your frame and have it behind you. So literally just take your hands like you're going to push somebody away, put them out, put them on the bar. When you lock in under the bar, you should teacup, kind of push your traps up a little bit, rotate the elbows forward, get a good steady base. Some people call this high bar squatting. I call it regular bar. Elbows forward, step out. Keep your chest up. What we see a lot is guys want to tuck the chin, get a rounding in the spine, and what that does, this right here, it pushes the elbows back. So if everybody takes their arms, puts them like this, push your elbows back. What happens naturally? You just naturally start going forward, right? So if the weight is centered over your shoulders and your rib cage and you start falling forward with the weight, you're taking on 300-400 pounds, just your upper body. So it's going to be a pretty nasty good morning. So keep your upper body here, elbows forward, right? All right, very next thing is what we see in the hips. What a lot of people want to do is they want to start descending or descending with their chest and head before they ever break the hips and start pushing the knees out to go down, right? So basically what you want to see, and this is going to be better explained in Josh's video, he does a real good job of breaking the hips, opening the knees, and starting his descent, right? With that being said, what you're going to do is you're going to want to keep that chest up and you come down. Here's where we see the biggest mistake. Everybody's knees go inward. What's causing this? Well, one, it's because you're falling forward, so the body naturally wants to get more of its base underneath wherever the weight is, right? That's what you naturally want to do, is the knees are going to come in, and you're trying to catch that bar because it's pushing you forward and you don't want to fall forward. So what do? Chest up, right? Easy. We're all here, elbows here. Break the bar on your back. Try to break it across your back. Pop the hip. And in the video, you're going to hear Josh talk about shitting between your heels. And he's going to explain it and break it down. And all you're going to want to do is you're going to want to sit straight down. You never want to sit back. You want to sit straight down. All right? Push the knees out. Third mistake we see is when people get down, they want to start guessing where parallel is. Right? You start guessing, and a lot of times you end a little high, and you're trying to stop the momentum of the weight coming down. So what do? Here, we squat ass to graft as low as you can go. Your hamstring should be sitting on your calves. That right there is going to allow you to stop the bar and explode out of the bottom. But what we see is a lot of people start guessing and they slow down, then they start leaning forward, because if your eyes rotate down a little bit, what happens? You think you're getting lower, right? Y'all ever notice, like when you do a push-up and you're looking forward, you're going all the way, but as soon as you put your head down, you start going half reps. So those are just 3 very, very common, and there's 100 more. Are there any more right off the top of y'all's heads before Josh plays the video?
I think just to touch on it for me, what I always struggled with in the past, and I talk about it a little bit, is like this awkward, I want to sit down type of movement. With the squat, you're not sitting. Okay, stop thinking about yourself sitting, and instead, again, I'm going to show you, is think about dropping your hips, your pelvis between your feet. This is so important. This is probably the biggest change. And if you go back like years and years and you look at some of the older video content of me doing squats, I'm doing the weird, awkward, like put my butt out type sitting movement, and it just feels uncomfortable. It puts a lot of stress on your lower back. And that's a lot of the reason why you guys are struggling with back pain when you do the squat movement, is because you're creating so much tension on your low back through the way that you're sitting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to really quickly pull up this video. I'm going to play it for y'all, and hopefully it'll bring some value for you. James, while you're on there for
All
these.
right. Hey, basically what he's telling y'all is a couple years ago, he was like, hey man, I'm strong, but I want to get really good at fucking squats. I said shit between your heels. And he was just like, what? And this is what he's talking about. If you think about a lot of times why he's just going to talk about this for a minute, and he's going to break down his stance. You see how he's doing the sit back? That's what he's talking about. But did you see how his chest started falling forward as he was doing it? Now also I want to give you guys, I don't know, creator note. It is very, very hard to replicate a barbell back squat without a barbell. All right, because it just naturally puts your arms forward. So disregard any minor fall of his chest without the barbell, and that's just because his arms are just naturally going to pull him forward. Hit pause real quick. One thing that he noted earlier, he was talking about the best way to get this technique right is with a barbell, and the reason for that is gravitational pull. The gravity is naturally going to pull the weight down and push you into the position, whereas a hack squat, it isn't, because you're at an angle. You know, goblet squats, the weight's kind of in front of you, pulling you over. So what he was saying earlier about the barbell back squat being the best way to learn the squat technique, it's due to gravitational pull on the bar pulling you down into that position.
Same thing as a deadlift, right?
Absolutely. So you notice how he's down in the bottom right here? Hit pause. I want you to notice something. Do y'all see where his feet are? You see how everything's flat, but how his toes, his big toes, are slightly off the ground? Because he's putting all the weight on the outsides of his feet through his 4th and 5th metatarsal, but also along the outside of the foot and then through his heels. So if you remember in deadlift, we were talking about screwing through your heels, right? But if you look, you see how where his ankle starts and then his tibia and fibia, that's the shorter bones in the bottom of your legs, guys, below your knees. Watch how he pushes. You see where his knees are going? His knees are tracking towards the outsides of his toes, whereas if he pushes them straight over the front, he's going to go forward. Now, once again, he's built like a fucking gorilla, so he can only go so wide to get his frame inside, all right? So some of you guys with more flexibility, right there. Look at his ankles. See how everything's like in a straight line? Yes, his knees are outward, so the straight line, instead of being up and down, it's going to be more to 45, where he's coming from his ankle to his knee. So as you go down, you want to push your knees outward. It's very, very easy. Why? Because you have the weight of your body on the outsides, right? So think 4th and 5th metatarsal. That's the long bones of the foot. The very last two, the little toe, and then the one right next to it, your ring toe and your fucking weird shaped little toe. That's your fourth and fifth metatarsals. Those bones, you should feel the weight on there, right? You should be able to lift your big toe and the medial part of the ball of your foot when you go down into a squat. Like right there in that position, he can lift his big toe and probably his second toe in that position due to the weight distributed to the outside and heels. One key, Josh, explain that right there. When you talk about your diaphragm before you get into the bar, listen to what he tells you.
So basically, when you guys do any type of movement, especially the squat, bench, and deadlift, the most important thing I would say is making sure that you're bracing. And the way that you brace is deep breath into the diaphragm down here. One of the best ways to know if somebody knows what they're doing when it comes to doing these heavy lifts is the way that they breathe. Because if I use my breath the right way, like I just explained, your lungs and your diaphragm are going to stabilize your spine. This is exactly why it's so important that you don't over tighten your weightlifting belt, is because if you're doing it correctly, the belt doesn't get tight until you brace. Then that belt creates more tension on your midsection to create stability during the lift. And then when you release that breath at the top of the rep, that belt loosens again. So with the squat, I'm up in the top position. I have my shoulder blades pinned. My hands are tight. Everything is straight. Deep breath all the way down to the diaphragm. Hold it. And then you drop into the movement. And you don't breathe out until you finish the rep. Okay.
The other part of that is I go with the finger method inside the belt. When I tighten down my lever, when I put it on and I'm standing relaxed and it's closed, I make sure that I have at least a finger's girth between my core and the belt. That way, when I fill up, it gets a little loose. And then as you get into the lift and you expand, it only goes about a finger's width. All right. All right. So do y'all see how his chest is up the whole time? See how he came in? He dipped his head. He gets underneath it. Pause. There's a couple ways to what's called entering the bar, right? If you notice, Josh comes in, he's very close stanced when he enters the bar. Totally acceptable as long as the bar is set at the height, right? So the bar, what I recommend is at the bottom of your deltoid is about where the bar should be set, because you're going to take that small dip under and get in there. There should be a slight bend in your knees. If you notice, he has the slight, I'm pointing like they can see me touch your screen. But he has a slight bend in his knees and his hamstrings. His hamstrings are not fully tightened. See? Now, when he comes up, he's just going to stand up naturally, and the bar is going to come right out of the hooks. That's where you want to be. Anything higher than that, where you get on your tippy toes, you're going to be out of balance and the bar is going to shift. Anything lower than that, you don't want to come out of a squat. So Josh goes in both feet underneath. When I go in, I go more of like left leg first. I'll stomp it and I'll swing under, hit it. I come up in natural shoulder width, stand up, step out. So however you get into the bar needs to feel natural. It needs to be something that you prefer. But where he has the bar positioned is the thing that we need to pay attention to. Just rule of thumb is about mid to low deltoid. All right, because that allows you 2 to 3 inches to get underneath it. That way, when you stand up, you're there. If you look right now, you see where his traps are? You can see the bar pressing into his traps. Guys, if you haven't been squatting with a barbell, this fucking hurts until you get used to it, all right? I'm telling you right now, it fucking hurts. That does not allow you to go get a fucking pussy pad or a tampon to put on there. It's just like your hands. You have to build the callus, right? You have to build the Marine Corps. Josh, we did martial arts with the Marine Corps. What they call muscle hardening. That's what it was called when we would kick the shit out of each other. So you have to harden the muscle for the barbell to sit there. So it's going to take time. It's going to take repetition. It's going to be sore, okay? All right, so watch his head. Did y'all see the rise in his head? Y'all should have seen it. And if you didn't, you can watch the opening of the back of his hat. and the bill. See how he's looking down? He's making sure his feet are good. Right there. Other thing, did you notice how his elbows slightly went forward? You can watch them. Those slow, as his head comes up, they kind of go forward. That's his range of motion. He has complete control of that bar. Now, when he comes down, watch his elbow. You see how his hips are going to come back, but his elbow stays in that straight line because he has complete control of the bar right now. Right there. Did y'all see it? You can see his elbow versus hips. A lot of you guys are back here fucking chicken winging it. Like you just got fucking arrested and they put you in that chicken wing to put the handcuffs on, right? So he's down in the bottom. If you notice, he's got gum soles on, or are you in socks?
No, these are fans.
Okay, if you look on his left foot, you see how his heel is staying in contact at all times? A lot of times you guys will come down and you'll kind of be on the balls of your feet falling forward. Also, do not squat in running shoes, super thick-soled shoes, or soft-soled shoes, okay? Vans, Metcons, Nanos, Chuck T's, barefoot, anything that's a flatter surface is kind of where you want to be unless you are using lifters. All right, and we can do a whole different call on lifters, but they're designed differently. Yes, they have an elevated heel, but they're designed differently and there's structural integrity inside there that prevent a lot of the falling forward and they allow you to open your hips. So back to where he's at. He's completely flat-footed, right? Also, look at his right leg where the tattoo in his calf, look right above that. Y'all see his hamstring activated? Y'all see that? Right there, you can see the line. The squat is a compound movement, gentlemen. It is not just a quad movement, and it is also not a lower erector movement. And that's why, how many guys I got that get lower back pain from squatting? That's because you're falling forward. If your lower erectors are hurt, you're falling forward. So Josh is down here in the bottom. Notice where his head is. It's the same. His head is in the same position. All right. He did not tuck his head or his chin to his chest. Same position. All right. Give me about halfway back up. Right there. Do y'all see that? What do y'all notice? Other than his dump truck sticking out, shoulders, knees, and midfoot and elbows, elbows are a little bit behind, but once again, he has complete control of the bar, okay? But everything is pretty much seamless. Like you should be able to draw a line behind your ear, down through your chest, through your rib cage, down into your foot. Now, the only critique I'm going to throw at Josh, it's nothing new. If you watch him when he goes up and down, watch what his ass does at the bottom of the movement. And you're going to see this a lot. Watch. Perfect. Boom. How many of you guys on the leg press notice that when you get close, your ass comes up and tucks up under your heels? Y'all should notice that. Like a lot of y'all do. If you go heavy and you open your knees and you come all the way down, your ass lifts off the seat. So Josh is getting so low that he's having to buck his hips. But this is not a standalone or unique thing. What does Josh do on his deadlifts? Pops the hips, right? This is a telltale sign. How you squat and deadlift are very synonymous. Now watch when he comes out, he's going to unpop it. There it was. It's very quick. He unpopped his hip to come out of the bottom because he popped him down. All right, watch. Right there. He unpopped it to come up. A lot of you guys are going to have the same thing, but what you're going to want to do to correct that is just continue to push the knees out as your mobility allows. That's the correction for that. And here's the thing, but that's the only thing. If you watch that squat video, it's just the tucking of the hip at the very bottom, but it's expected.
I just want to point out that if we were to take this position, this is where I'm sitting in the bottom of a deadlift. The only difference is I take the bar off of my shoulders and I put it on the ground in front of me. And so if what James is saying is if I was to do that exact thing and I literally take the bar off my shoulders and I put it right here in front of me, what's going to happen is I'm actually lifting my hips first before I stand, which is exactly what's causing the problem with the deadlifts. This is what he's pointing out. John, anything to add?
No, Coach James doing a stellar job. I would just, guys, be in alignment. If you watch the video with Josh and how he's doing it, is just the barbell alignment, like Coach James is talking about. If you look at the bar travel from where Josh starts to the end and then the return, it literally goes straight down just above his heels. And then it goes straight back up, almost like he's on a Smith machine. So if you're looking at the barbell travel, it's perfect. It's straight up and down, is which is where you want it. Where with the form that Coach James is talking about, where you're leaning too far back, if you're trying to dip the chest or you sit the wrong way, that barbell is going to travel and it's going to break that plane. So it's not going that straight up and down movement that you want for that travel. So just keep in mind, if you're videoing yourself, like Coach James is talking about in the beginning, and you watch it and you see your barbells traveling or swaying, it's not going on that straight plane, you know that something's off from there too, and you can correct based on the techniques that he's telling you now.
So coming down when it comes to the power with your feet, do you want to bring the weight down on mid feet, and then when you're driving up, do you want to drive through the heels?
You want the weight on the outside of your foot into your heel, right? So when you come down, you're pushing your knees outward, which is going to push you straight down, and it's going to give you that perfect bar path that JT's talking about. So when you come up, you're pushing through your heels and the outsides of your feet, which naturally some of the weight distribution is going to go, yes, to the midline of the foot as you come up, but you're still pushing your knees outward as you come up. And that's going to keep that weight more, fourth, fifth. You may get a little bit in the third, but when you start getting first, second, and you're on the inside or the medial portion of your feet, you're in trouble because that means your knees are coming inward. Last thing I want to show on Josh's video, go to the top real quick, just where you're in between reps. Not starting out, but in between. Do y'all see how his ass is eating his shorts? The reason for that is because he's keeping his glutes tight. All right? You have got to ensure that you're activating your hamstrings. Can you give me like where you go down like 1, maybe 2 inches to where we can see your hamstrings? All right. Did y'all see how he slowly popped his knees forward? Like it's very subtle. Watch. Slight bend. Now you right there, you can see his hamstrings activated. This is a compound movement, dudes. If you want to focus just quads, all I tell Josh, bring his feet in. Super close, maybe put a plate under his heels or put his lifters on, and then sit down and come up, but don't come all the way up, right? That's quad focus. If he wants to work ham and glutes, I'll put him on a Smith machine, put his feet out in front of him, high and wide, and he's just going to go down and up to work hamstrings and glutes, all right? But for tonight's call, for the purpose of stellar squat technique, do exactly what JH is showing you here. If you noticed, I didn't hit on hands and wrist on this. 2 reasons. 1, Josh doesn't have great mobility. And then 2, when you become a 400, 500, 600 pound squatter, squatting 135 pounds is a lot fucking harder than 450 or 500. All right. I'm just telling you guys, it is hard because you have to literally like force the bar to come down with you and control it. So the fact that he had a bar path that I would say is 98, 99% up and down and vertical is fucking pretty impressive with 135 pounds. All right.
So for you guys who don't know me and watch my content as far as like stories and stuff, I do a lot of body weight squats and I do a lot of Smith machine squats or hack squats. Like that's been my bread and butter for quad development. I don't do as much barbell squats anymore. For me, it's preference. Part of the reason why I'm able to do it with that form is because I spend so much time on the Smith machine. And if you watch me do the Smith machine, I do it with much closer feet. And the reason I do that is because I can use the bar to hold me while I'm going through the reps because it's attached to the track. And so I can kind of lean back into it a little bit to give myself the stability to bring my feet closer together without having to worry about keeping my balance. Where with this, I have to bring my feet a little bit wider. Otherwise, I'll fall backwards because I don't have the mobility in my ankles to go all the way down without falling backwards on my heels. Does that make sense? Let me just kind of show you real quick. So if I was to go really, really, really wide, like we're just gonna like to an extreme here, right? And I go all the way down, it's very easy for me to go down because there's no flexion in the ankle. You see that? Like my ankles aren't having to move very much. Versus if I go like to this extreme, and we'll just kind of move to this angle, if I go down, in order for me to keep a straight posture without falling, my ankles bend more. They need more mobility. And I have really poor mobility in my ankles. So one of the ways that I can fix that is by being able to lean backwards on a Smith machine. Right? It gives me the stability that I need without having to bring my ankles all the way down.
If you guys are squatting on Smith machines, because that's what your gym has, cool, no problem, right? But make sure you step your feet out a little bit to offset the angle of the machine. Because what's going to happen is, because that machine is angled, if you stand right underneath it and you try to go into a squat, it's going to push you this way. So you're going to kind of tabletop and collapse over, all right? So step out with your feet, lean into it like Josh is talking about, try to break it over your back, and then sit down into the squat. Yeah, that'll work. Kyle, he's got a good side angle. Hey, so one thing I want to mention, remember, Kyle's 6'6", all right? So his longer lever is going to look a little bit different than somebody who's like 6 foot or 5'7", okay? So notice how he comes in. His elbows are behind him. He's going to push up. Head's pretty good position. Look where, stop right there. Bring him up to where he's about to go. All right, right there. Look where his elbows are. His elbows are almost as far back as his glutes. Do y'all see how his chest is starting to just naturally fall forward? You see that?
So the fix to this is he needs to bring his elbows from here to here.
Bring them forward, right? Bring them forward, break the bar. Now watch, as he goes down, right there, he's in good position, and then he starts reaching. Y'all see him start shifting his hips and reaching about an inch higher than that. Good, good, good. Now he's reaching, he's thinking, never hits depth. He's overthinking it. Chest is kind of caving in, elbows are going back. And if you notice, all his other squats, he's just naturally kind of staying forward because he's fighting the reps. Gentlemen, let the bar push you down. Okay, sit in the bottom. That's not bad. It's really not. Like, he's got to hit depth. He's got to keep his elbows pulled forward, big chest. It probably wouldn't hurt him to lift his head just a little bit. Like, he's good on this rep. But if you see right there, he's almost there. All he has to do is push his knees out. Keep pushing them out right there. He's going to get the next 2 to 3 inches. He's going to be good to go.
Look at his heel here. You see how it's slightly lifted? So if you look very closely, you see how when he starts the movement, his heel lifts off the ground. Watch. So he's planted here. Now watch closely. You see how it slightly lifts? So as he's going down, because he's sitting and he's not shitting, it's pulling him forward. And this is also because of the elbows. Everything is pushing forward, and he's having a hard time getting into this pocket, which is exactly why he's having a hard time hitting depth. And it's creating that tension that James described, where he's overthinking, like, should I stop here and go back up? Like, what I'm telling you is, when you go to the bottom of the squat, it should just feel comfortable. Boom, I'm here. Like, think about the bottom of a bench press. I don't wonder if I'm deep enough. I know I'm deep enough because I get to full range of motion and I feel my pecs stretch. In fact, if you're doing proper bench form, your chest is what stops the bar, because you could ideally go even further, which is why some people prefer dumbbells, right? So I'm going down in a barbell bench, and if I'm proper form, the chest stops me, and then I can go back through. With the squat, the same thing should be occurring with the flexion in the knee. Like I can only go so far as closing my leg together. And that's what stops me. And then I can just comfortably kind of chill on the spot down here at the bottom if I wanted to. Versus like this uncomfortable, like, okay. And then you like try to stop it with the momentum, and it creates like all this tension, which is going to cause a tear in your quad over time if you do it too fast. Right? Does that make sense? Am I on track here?
No, you're good.
Okay. All right. So going back here. So for Kyle, the feedback that I have for this is I would suggest you take like a 1/2 inch step outward and maybe point your toes a little bit more. Put the barbell away and just focus on dropping your hips first. And get used to understanding that I'm not going back, I'm going down. Almost like I'm a fucking, like one of those clog guys, right? Like, think about dropping your hips down instead of sitting back. And what that's going to do is it's going to create less tension. You can see, like, if you really pay attention to his back, right? Look right here. You can literally see tension there. Look, he's like right there. You see that? Like it's stretching that whole part of his back because he's sitting back. He's not sitting down. And so if you do that, you bring the elbows forward, maybe go a little bit wider with the feet. It's going to create more of a pocket type movement up and down the slot versus this, where he's like forcing himself into it. Does that make sense to you guys?
Yeah, the other thing that y'all can do, like he's talking about, drop the barbell, work on the squat. Y'all know the dip belt where you can put all the weight on and do dips and pull-ups with it? Put that shit on and put a 2.5. And when you go down, set that 2.5 pound plate right between your feet. Go down slow, set it down, slowly come up, and keep it from swinging. If you can get really fucking good at that, you can put a barbell on your back and sit straight down. That's just a good, if you're at home and you got one or you're in the gym, that's a good warm-up too, to get your legs ready for squat day, is taking that 2.5 and squatting down and placing it right between your feet. Now, granted, remember, you're going to have to fucking lift your head when you squat though, because you guys are going to watch the weight and be like, oh, this is the most I've ever had down here. What does it feel like, right? So while you're doing that, use a mirror and just kind of watch your technique.
So we're going to go into a couple more of these. I'm going to show McGarry's. And the reason I want to show McGarry's first is because he's been training with James for a long time. And you can kind of see not just me, but what it looks like for somebody who's kind of been doing it for a while. But I'm sure there's some things we can pick apart here too. So this is the movement. You can see he kind of sets up. Again, look at, you can barely see, but look at the bar. He's got that sitting right across his traps. McGarry has a very similar build to me. He's just a little bit less muscular. But you see how, I wish I could slide this, but he didn't sit back. He sat down. You can see it right out of the gate. So I'm going to refresh it here so you guys can see. Watch how he sits. He's going down. Down. You see that? And a lot of that has to do with letting the hips break plane before the knees do. Okay. So he's pushing down, and you can see again down here at the bottom of the movement, he's chilling. Look at his heels. I wouldn't be squatting in these shoes. I don't really like, what are those, Nobles? I prefer Vans, Chucks, something much more flat. But you can see he actually does a better job than I do of not winking with the butt. And again, the only thing that I would say is for him is as he starts to get a little bit fatigued, you can see his knees start to buckle. And the reason his knees are buckling is because he's starting to push a little bit forward. But he's doing a really good job. The only other thing is during that rep, he started to lose shoulder, which is, you see when you lose that shoulder, you want your shoulders pinned back. When you lose that, your back starts to roll forward. Okay, so when he's getting fatigued, notice how at the top of the rep now, his shoulder blades aren't pinned anymore. You guys see that? Their shoulder blades are rolled forward now. And one of the ways that you can make sure that that doesn't happen if you have the mobility, like I don't really have it, but is the closer you bring your hands together on the bar, the harder it's going to be to roll forward. Versus if you have your hands really wide on the bar, it's actually naturally going to want to make you roll your shoulders forward. So work on trying to bring your hands closer. That way, when you start to get fatigued, kind of like he is in this video, you don't lose that form in the upper back. And right, that was like the last set for him, or last rep for him. So again, you can see here, his shoulders are pinned back here. He goes right down into it. Nice, healthy pause at the bottom of the rep. He's good. He does another one here. He's good. And then the third rep is where he starts to crumble. His back starts to bend after, see that? His upper back started to bend over right here. And then here is where the form really starts to deteriorate. Okay, so focus on, again, when you're going through this movement, driving through the heel here when you push out, while also leaning on the outer part of your foot. And this is going to make sure your knees stay wide. And then here, make sure that the bar, or excuse me, your shoulder blades are pinned. You can see for him, he could actually bring the bar a little bit lower. So it should be sitting more across the traps right here in this little pocket. And then this is where his shoulders really start to roll. And some of that has to do with the fact that the bar is sitting so high on his neck too. You see that? Like that's what I'm talking about as far as the rolling shoulders. You guys see what I'm talking about here? Give me a thumbs up, yeah? All right. What questions do you guys have about Jason here? Nothing? All right, so here again, the big thing for him is tightening up this. And I think for him has a lot to do with the bar position, okay? Did somebody unmute? No? Okay, all right. Next, we got Bubba. Okay, Bubba's got a what does this look like? 55s, 65 plus 25s. What is that? 90, 180. So he's got, about 225 on here. Okay. So you can see he's got a setup again for Bubba. This is what I'm talking about with hand position. You see how wide his hands are? And because his hands are so wide, he's starting, go back, like, look, you see, he's literally starting with his posture forward instead of upright. If he was to take his hands and bring them in to where the knurling on the bar is and hold it there, it's going to force him to come back, right? So, Bubba, you can hear what I'm saying, yeah? Like, try to get your hands closer and focus on bringing that bar down to the bottom of your, or the top of your rear delt, and sitting it between your rear delt and your trap. So the bar can go a little bit lower, and then bring your elbows forward by tightening your hands up closer on the bar. So you're here, it's going to look like you going hands close. And the only way that you're going to get the hands close is by going here, which is going to tighten your shoulder blades together. Pretend like somebody's putting a pencil in between your shoulder blades, and your goal is to try to hold it there during the entire squat. Okay? So that's the first thing, is you can see right here, just when he starts the movement, he's already leaned forward. He should be upright. Okay? One of the other things too is the way that you're stepping out here. It should be 1, 2, half step, half step. the more you're shuffling. Okay, so get under the bar, load it. One step back, half step, half step. And I want you guys to go through this process every time. 1, 2, half step, half step. 1, go through that in your mind. Okay, the setup needs to be exactly the same every single time. Okay. So he goes, you can see what he's doing here. It's kind of a shuffle out and it's uncomfortable. Okay. Set your feet. Now, to give you guys a quick tip, one of the things that I like to do is I really like to, what I used to do is if I didn't know where my feet should have been, and I'm just kind of struggling with that foot positioning, I would get a piece of chalk and get some chalk on my finger. And I would go down to that bottom position like I showed you. So sit down in that caveman stance. Chill there. Get down in that comfortable position like I showed you in the video. And then take that piece, that chalk that you have on your finger, and mark the outsides of your toes on the ground in front of you. Then, when you go and you load the bar, and you've got all that weight on your shoulders, you line your feet up with where you put your fucking chalk on the ground. So that way you know that was what was most comfortable for you. You give yourself a point of reference. Because one of the worst things that you do is if you haven't gotten the reps in and you're still trying to figure out your form, going down into that bottom position of the squat is really scary if you don't know where your feet are, if you don't feel like your feet are where they should be, because you're afraid of that knee stability. Tell me I'm wrong. You're like afraid to get hurt, especially when you put more weight on there. But if you mark your feet, it's going to give you that peace of mind knowing that your feet are where they should be so that you can take that load straight to the face. Okay. All right. So let me share this back. All right. Y'all can see? Good. Okay, cool. So going into the squat here. And so because of that fucked up start, now what's happening is when he goes down into the squat, everything is forward. Watch his heels. You see how they're lifting off the ground when he gets down to the bottom of the rep? And it makes it much harder for him. And what's occurring is now his knees are starting to buckle a little bit. And it's a recipe for the entire, basically, collapse of the technique on this movement. So you did really good here, Bubba, and I think you would do just fine if you just tighten up your shoulder blades, bring everything back here, and it's just making that adjustment is going to roll everything in the form back onto your heels where you should be, and you're going to feel much more comfortable. Okay, everything else looks fine. I really like how you made the effort to pause in the bottom of the movement, which really tells me that you're comfortable down there. And for a lot of guys, this is a really scary place to be down here, right? Because you're like, this is kind of where you get that pucker factor, especially if you start to reach failure. Like, am I going to wake it back up? And then the last thing I want to point out is you see how he's got the safety here? This is a proper height for the safety. If he can't get out of this rep, he can drop this bar and roll it back off of his shoulders, and it's going to fall less than 6 inches onto that safety, and then he can just stand right up out of the squat. So to give you guys context on where that should look based upon where you're standing, this is kind of how high those safeties are. And for a lot of you guys, you're putting the safeties way too low, and it's not giving you that peace of mind. Use these safeties, because the proper way to bail on a squat here is if I'm down here and I'm like, oh, I can't make it, right? And I'm like right here and I can't make it. All he has to do is just let go with his hands, and the bar literally rolls backwards onto those safeties, and he's fine. You guys all understand how to do that, right? Okay, so don't try to fall forward and hold the bar. Like if you have these safeties, what you do is you get to the bottom of the squat and you can't fucking make it, just let go of it and it'll fall backwards behind you. Okay? Because if you try to fall forward, that's how you end up in this weird position where you get your fucking face smashed into the ground if there isn't a safety. Right? You guys have probably seen videos on social media where that happens to people. So just let go of the fucking bar and it'll fall behind you. Okay? Anything to add here, John?
Nah, boss man, you hit it perfect. The whole setup was just from the start. Just with the arms super wide, you can see the elbows are really far tracking back. And if that barbell was a little bit lower on his traps a little bit more too, that would also help set that up. Because you can see on the end of the squat, like there's like that hook from the bar to his neck, and that's what's throwing his weight forward. So if you're looking at the barbell travel now, when he goes all the way down into the squat, you can see it's in front of his heels now. So once it's in front, then he's going to be fighting a lot with that lower back. It's going to throw the technique off, and that a whole alignment is going to be awkward. So just like you said, I think Bubba, once you adjust your hands a little bit closer, brother, and you keep those elbows forward, maybe set the barbell a little bit further or a little bit lower on the trap, I think you'll feel a lot more comfortable once you throw, a little bit lighter weight on there, get some reps with it, and then, work that technique in the form, and it'll be a lot better for you.
So for context, what John is trying to describe here is I actually found an image. And it's really small, but it's going to give you the visual that you guys need here. So if you look, if I was to start standing and I draw a line from the center of the barbell, you guys can see this, yeah?
Yes.
It's going to go right through the midfoot. And if you notice, going to the bottom of the movement, and if I draw that same line, it's still right through the middle of the foot, from the middle of the barbell to the ground. Where Bubba is screwed up is if I was to draw the same line, it would be like this. And if it's like this at this, 15 to 20 degree angle, now it's pulling everything this way, which is making it hard for him to stand straight up and creating tension here. So for context, our goal is we want this bar to follow a straight line down, right through the center of our foot. Just like if I was to do a deadlift, again, going back, take this bar around and put it right here, I start with the bar where? Mid-foot, right? And I want with the deadlift, I want that bar to go from here, ideally, to here, right? So it's a straight line. And the more you deviate from that straight bar path, the more tension you're creating elsewhere, which is going to impact the weight you can pull or push or squat. And it's going to potentially put tension on places where it's not safe, especially for the squat and deadlift being the furthest point away from that line, which is your lower back. This is why so many people have pain, is because the further deviation from this line you create, the more tension you put on the opposite end of the shape of the geometry, which would be here, right? So we're trying to minimize tension here by basically creating a center of gravity right over the middle of the body, right? All right. So we've got time for about maybe one or two more. I think I've got Croy's here. I've got Chris's here. All right, let's go over Chris. So one of the things that I really struggle with when I watch Chris, when we do these, when I watch his videos, is he really lacks, and you guys can notice this, and I wish you were on the call. Maybe you are, maybe you're not, Chris, but stability is really important, right? I want you guys to really think about when you're doing these lifts to keep everything tight, right? So like you guys know You ever see those advertising balloons that people put out in front of their fucking businesses? They're like the noodles that wave their arms. Some of y'all motherfuckers are in the gym looking like those dudes, like doing barbell, doing curls like the fucking noodle guy, right? Like, and because of that, it's creating a bunch of risk. You're not actually hitting the muscle that you're targeting. Like, there's so many things wrong with that lack of stability. And part of that lack of stability comes from the fact that you don't have the muscle memory and the development to actually create that. You don't know what it feels like. So it's almost like, you know, like a baby deer walking for the first time. But some of you just aren't intentional about the way that you're actually going through this movement and focused on stabilizing whatever limb you're focused on and then going through specifically and executing that movement and nothing else. So I want you guys to think about like moving like a fucking robot, like shoulders pinned, right? Proper form, proper technique. And you're like, and nothing else should be moving. Okay. Like when I go through the squat, the only things that should be moving are my hips, my knees, and my ankles. That's it. So if you just focus on that, or if we were to even simplify it even more, when I do a bicep curl, the only thing that should be moving is my elbow joint. That's it. And the more I introduce other movement, like in my wrist, my shoulder, a lot of guys doing this, that is creating problems, risk of injury, and you're taking tension away from the bicep. Okay? Focus on just moving the joint that you're focused on moving. That's it. And the way that you're going to do that is by being very stable, tight. Okay? Pretend like you're a fucking nun. Everything is tight, right? Nothing is getting in here. All right? So let's go into this. So you can kind of see the way that he's setting up is, again, I don't personally agree with like this wide stance here because it's already creating instability. He's doing a decent job of having, you know, the bar in the right position. But if you notice, his shoulders are still slightly rolled forward. What he needs to be doing is making sure that we could put a pencil right here and holding it together, holding it in place. Okay. And so he's got the bar in the position, but look how far he's rolled forward. We can literally see it. His shoulder blades aren't pinned. He's not pulled back. His head's not up. He's like this trying to do a squat. You guys see that? Okay. So that's the first mistake. Then he's trying to do a good job of keeping these elbows forward. But the problem is his neck is so far rolled forward, his shoulders are so rolled far forward that the elbows aren't really able to keep that position. Now, you see what's happening when he goes into the squat? This is exactly what I talked about in my video. He's trying to sit. Look. And the only reason it kind of looks like he's doing that shit between the heels movement is because his feet are so close together. So it's creating like almost like this frog movement where it's like this. If you guys can see me. Okay. What he needs to do is open his heels up a little bit. So here, what I would suggest he does is going back to the starting position is take a step out and move his feet from here to a little bit more straightforward. So ideally what's happening is, so if you guys see what's happening is when he starts to go down, his knees are forced to go over his toes. But because his feet are so close and his foot angle is so wide, like this, now he's sitting down like a frog. Does that make sense? And so because of that, paired with him having the bar so high on the shoulders and leaning forward, it's creating like this really uncomfortable position that, and you can literally see his heels are lifted off of the ground here at the bottom of the rep. This is all starting with, again, the bar position, the shoulder position to start. And then here, like I said, he probably needs to widen his feet a little bit.
I think, Josh, if he widens his feet, like you're saying, because of his lack of mobility in his ankles, that's going to help with the heels too. So starting from that top with the bar and him being pushed forward, that with his feet being wider too, that's going to, as he drops with better form, with you dropping the bar where you said, having that will also keep those heels on the ground at the same time.
Yeah, so I would go a little bit more than, you can see his feet are about shoulder width apart. I would go a little bit more than shoulder width apart. And then again, like John said, okay. The other thing to note here is he's only got 45, 55, 65, 75, 85 pounds. And because he's only got 85 pounds on the bar, it's hard to use that weight as the counterweight that he needs in order to really pull him down into that upright position. Right? Like it was even hard for me to get into that position with 135. I think in order for you to really understand what that feels like, you need to be okay with squatting at least your body weight. Right? Because if you have your body weight on your shoulders, that's enough to serve as a counterweight to pull your hips back into the pocket that you need to pull it into without feeling like you're going to fall forward. Right? So like if I have body weight, like you guys saw the body weight squat, I was naturally leaned forward where I was kind of sitting with my elbows on my thighs because I didn't have the weight pulling me back and holding my hips into position. Right? If I'm only doing it with 80 pounds or 85 pounds on the bar, it's still not going to be enough weight to pull me back into position on the squat. And that's part of the reason why he's struggling here too. So I hate to say add more weight because that's terrible advice for somebody who doesn't have the technique down. What I would actually tell Chris to do is stick with the weight that he has, fix the problem with foot positioning and hand positioning and shoulders, get that right, understand that there is going to be a slight pull forward just because of the limited amount of weight on the bar. But if you can get it right with 85 pounds, then you're going to be able to execute it perfectly with 200 pounds or body weight. Okay. I see that you turned on your camera, Chris. Do you have any questions about that? Or anybody else have anything they want to say, add, or take away? Looks like he's trying to figure out.
No, I couldn't find my microphone, but that's fine. No, I don't know. I'll get with you later. I'm trying to work out some mobility issues. Plus, this is new for me. I haven't squatted for 40 years. So
yeah, I hope you don't take the criticism we're here out as me like, lighting you up, because there's a lot of guys who are in the same position as you. And we're using you as an example here, of course, but this is not us like, throwing shade or slinging shit. Like our goal here is to use your videos here as an opportunity to help everybody else. Right. So understand that there's nothing wrong with what you're doing here. It's just, this is valuable. The reason why I'm using your video is because it's valuable feedback for everybody else as well. So if you have issues or questions, obviously JT can help. I'll help. Our goal is to get you right, brother. So try to make those adjustments and let me know if you have issues next week when we get in there. We kind of did the same thing with the deadlift last week or 2 weeks ago. All right, so going back to Croy, this is going to be our last one before I kind of close things out here. So they're talking about positioning, but one of the things that I really want to point out about Croy that we have a really good angle on here is this is actually ideal bar position. So you see his trap, top of his rear delt, and it's sitting right inside of that pocket. So if I take the bar and I start on the top of my traps and I just like slowly let it roll down the back of my trap, it's going to naturally fall into that pocket where we're talking about, where your rear delts start. Okay. You can't see the muscle definition here, but that's exactly where this is. It's his bars. The bar is actually in a perfect position. So his trap is coming up here and his rear delt starts here and it's sliding right into that little slot there. You guys will feel it when you practice. Just try it out. Okay. Maybe next time I do squats in the gym, I'll get a close up because you can literally see on me, like when I have, even with a t-shirt on, you can see where my trap and my rear delt connect. But this is perfect position. The only other thing I'll add is, again, you see how wide his hands are. And what is that doing? Just right out of the gate, look at his elbows are behind him. So let's see if he tightens that up when he gets it off the rack. So he actually goes wider. And then he goes to pick it up. All right. Boom. Do you see what's happening here? Because of his elbow position, it's pushing his head forward. If he was to take these elbows and bring them here, everything else is going to rotate where it needs to be. See that? And the easiest way to fix that elbow problem is to take this hand and put it right here. Because the only choice that you're going to have is to go like this to get that elbow underneath. Okay. So we're getting our set. He lifts his head, which is really good. He's correcting some of that, which is awesome. You see where the bar is? This is excellent. The only thing I would suggest, again, is he needs to bring that hand in about right here, and the elbows will come forward. He's doing a closer to a low bar where it's sitting a little bit further down onto his rear delts, which is actually impressive for his body type. Okay. But one of the things I do want to point out is if you look here in the mirror, this is actually a cool angle because we can see he actually needs to have his heels in a little bit tighter. Because with his feet pointed completely forward the way they are, you're probably going to see a knee buckle here when he goes in. Yep. Did you see it? Fucking called it. Look, I hadn't even watched this video yet. So watch. So he goes down. And you see how he's in the position, but his toes are pointed nearly forward. And so because of that, he's not driving on the outside of his foot. And when he goes to stand up, his knee is going to collapse inwards. Watch. Did you see that? It collapsed inwards. The reason that's occurring is because he's not creating the outward tension on the outside of his foot. And so the way that we solve that is simply by taking this heel and sliding it about a ½ an inch inward. That's all he has to do. And then when he goes to stand up, he's focused on the outside of the foot. And by the way, don't train and do squats in Jordans. There's too much padding in that shoe for you to really get the stability that you need against the floor to squat with proper form, okay? All right. So again, that's the problem that he's having. It's just that foot positioning and the elbow positioning. And notice how now that he's getting fatigued, he's now looking down. And when you start to look down instead of to look up like he started, what's occurring is he's starting to fall forward when he gets fatigued in this set. So look, you see that? So he's falling forward. His knees are starting to buckle in when he gets fatigued. And that all has to do, oh, and you saw that there. Watch. At the bottom of this rep, watch his heels. He's falling forward. They're coming off the ground. He's not driving through his heels anymore. And so to correct this, what he needs to do is hands closer on the bar, elbows tight down to the side of the body here, shoulder blades pinned back. Look forward, don't look down, and adjust the heel position. Okay. All right, that was a lot. That was a lot to process there. Do you guys understand what the analysis is here and where I'm getting all this from? Okay. All right. So again, I'm not like a huge squat guy. Me personally, I'm a bench guy. Like that's my expertise. We'll be doing bench press next week. But James had to step out of here, so obviously I'm doing my absolute best. But a lot of these skills for you guys when it comes to the squat form, especially, it's just really basic technique. So just go back to the basic form of the squat, right? If we start from top to bottom, again, we want bar in the proper position. Ideally, it's between the trap and the rear delt. Hands as close as you can get them. Elbows forward. We don't want them back here. Forward. We're looking straight. We're not looking down. We're looking straight. Our goal is to pull our shoulder blades all the way back together. We're here, okay? As far as your foot position is concerned, the best way to find that ideal squat position for you as far as your feet is concerned is go down and find that comfortable caveman position. Find it. You should be able to sit in your living room like it's Saturday morning cartoons when you were 8 years old, eating your fucking Cheerios, watching cartoons, Power Rangers or whatever it was, and just be able to sit in that caveman position comfortably. Okay. For some of you, like if you're like me and you've got some bad ankles and injuries there, you may have to go a little bit wider, point your toes out a little bit more, which is fine. For some of you guys who are like freaks of nature, where you are literally perfect health, even at 45, like John Tiano, you're going to be able to go a little bit closer. And a lot of that has to do with femur length as well, right? So the length of your leg is going to impact how wide you go. If you're somebody with short, stubby legs, it's going to be your squat's going to look a lot different than somebody who has longer legs, meaning a short, stubby leg guy, the squat's going to look more upright versus a longer person. It's going to look like almost like they're folding over, if that makes sense. Okay. So just be aware of that. Once you find that caveman position, then you get comfortable with the bar position and getting your shoulders in place. Now it's just a matter of dropping your hips between your feet. Don't sit, shit. Okay? Go straight down. And when you get to the bottom of that position, it should be a comfortable pause where you can sit there and feel okay. Like you're not going to fucking die. Then when you're ready to go back up, drive through the heels, through the outside of the feet, focus on pushing your knees outward and come up. At the top of the rep, squeeze your glutes together, keep that engaged until you're ready to go back down. Deep breath, release the glutes, which will drop the hips and go through that motion again. Okay. And so what I want you guys to do is, again, keep posting in the group. The team's going to keep giving you feedback. But the most frustrating thing for us from a coaching standpoint is giving feedback and then you guys not iterating. Right? James said it at the beginning of the call. When I give you feedback and I say, this is what you need to change, I don't care why you didn't. I don't fucking care. Like, what I'm telling you is do this, and this is what's going to fix that problem. Not, well, I tried. No, you didn't try, because you obviously didn't fucking do it. Right? Like, we either do or we don't. We don't try. Execute the movement, adjust the technique based upon the feedback, and continue to iterate on your form. That's how you're going to get better. If you continue to just make the same excuses for why you're not doing it the way that you should be, then your form's not going to improve, your strength's not going to improve, you're not going to see progress, and you're going to find yourself in this feedback loop where you're just stuck in the same place. Okay? So use the coaches, but also take their advice and apply it before you post another video asking for help. Okay? So again, next week, we're going to be going over the bench press. It's probably going to be Coach Q and I. Quentin is arguably better at bench press than I am nowadays, since I've struggled with injuries and have taken my focus away from that movement. But bench press has historically been my bread and butter, my favorite exercise, something that I love doing. So if you want feedback on your bench press form, make sure that you're posting your videos in the group this week. And if you guys are watching this live, and see some guys on Facebook right now or after the fact on YouTube, we do this every week on Thursdays at 7:30, and we talk about a different topic pertaining to self-development, personal growth, fitness, nutrition, etc. And we take the Iron Forge group coaching calls pretty seriously, and the goal is to take these guys through a curriculum where they're going to be able to develop their minds and their bodies in a way that's conducive to personal growth, and allowing them to lead as examples in their home and in their lives. If you'd like to be part of these calls, send me a message, or you can drop the word train in the comments below this video, wherever it's at, and I will send you a link with a video explaining how everything works. We follow a program together. Everybody's on the same plan. We rotate that program every 4 weeks, and we have the coaching staff that's here full time to make sure you guys are getting the feedback that you need to continue growing in the direction you want to grow in. So again, comment the word train, and we can get you signed up to be part of these calls. Any last questions from anybody on the call before we end it? All right, Justin, it was good to see you in here, man. Freeman, I hope Fire Teams round 2 is going well for you. Chris, appreciate you letting us pick you apart. Bubba, can keep up the good work. Polk, Troy, Weaver, thank you guys for your gracing us with your presence this week. And again, yes, sir.
If you get a minute, I sent you a polo, I think about a week ago. James had me send you one to ask you a couple questions.
Sure. I don't, just so you know, for future reference, I don't typically check Marco Polo, especially private. I will go check it for you, but in the future, if you have something you need, just message me on Facebook or send me a text message.
That's James's fault.
Yeah, but and that works for everybody else. Right? If you need to get a hold of me, social media is typically the fastest way to do that, or inside of the mobile app. Okay. All right. Okay. So with that said, guys, thank you so much for hanging out. I'll have this video edited and posted on YouTube for you guys to consume tomorrow. And I'll see you next Thursday.
Cool. See ya.